All right, let's get into it because this offseason for the Boston Celtics is anything but boring. We've got trade rumors, questionable proposals, and a front office that's clearly trying to reshape this roster without completely blowing it up. And at the center of it all is Brad Stevens, making moves that have fans wondering whether he's got a master plan or if the Celtics are flying by the seat of their pants. One thing's for sure, though things are moving fast, and we need to talk about it now. There's a trade idea floating around that has stirred up a lot of conversation. It came out of a mock scenario, sure, but it's gotten people thinking. What if the Celtics went after Domantas Sabonis from the Kings? Yeah, Sabonis. The big man from Sacramento who's been putting up some seriously impressive numbers. He's been kind of a monster ever since arriving in California. And when you look at what Boston currently lacks, the idea isn't completely out of left field. Offensively, Sabonis brings a unique skill set, a guy who can operate out of the post, facilitate with elite vision, and rebound like crazy. His stats are no joke. Last season alone, he averaged around 19 points, 14 boards, and 6 assists while shooting nearly 60% from the field and somehow over 40% from three. That last stat definitely turned some heads because Sabonis isn't exactly known for being a sniper from deep. But here's the thing, while those offensive numbers are appealing, there's another side to this. Defensively, Sabonis is, let's just say, less than elite. He's not exactly the anchor you'd want protecting the rim deep into a playoff run. We've seen it before with Nikola Jokic, great offensive center, not the most intimidating defender, but the Nuggets made it work because they had a system that covered his weaknesses. So, the question becomes, can Boston replicate that same formula? Do they even want to try now? Let's look at the trade proposal itself, because this is where it gets dicey. In this mock deal, the Celtics would be sending out Anthony Simons, Sam Hauser, Georges Niang, Neemias Queta, and 2 first-round picks in exchange for Sabonis. That's a haul, like a major haul. You're talking about 5 assets for one player. Even with Sabonis' production, it feels like a lot, especially when Boston's already made it very clear through their recent moves that they're trying to trim salary and build smarter, not necessarily bigger. Adding Sabonis, who's on a hefty contract and who doesn't drastically improve your defense, kind of goes against that grain. Plus, this isn't a deal that leaves you with a deep bench. If Boston goes through with this, you're looking at a core of Sabonis, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and Peyton Pritchard, but very little else behind them. The depth takes a serious hit. You'd be banking on the idea that the starting 5 carries you, and then you pray someone like Jordan Walsh or whoever's next up steps in and contributes at a high level. Not impossible, but a big gamble. And listen, I get the appeal. You imagine a world where Sabonis is feeding Tatum and Brown from the high post, drawing doubles, kicking out to shooters. It makes sense offensively. But when you think about how Boston has been building, especially with all the cost-cutting and asset conservation they've been doing, this trade feels off-brand. It feels desperate, like a move a team makes when they've run out of other ideas, and maybe that's why so many Celtics fans are uneasy about it. Then there's the broader question, if not Sabonis, then who? Because it's clear the biggest hole on this roster is at the 5. They need size. They need someone who can bang down low, defend, and eat minutes without completely cratering the offense. We've heard some names thrown around. Nikola Vucevic was mentioned in trade talks a couple of weeks ago, maybe even as a more affordable big. That didn't happen, obviously, but it shows the front office is looking in that direction. But are we maybe limiting our imagination? Are we only thinking of the names we already know? Are we too small-minded both figuratively and literally when it comes to how we solve this center issue? I mean, take Luka Garza for example. His name's been coming up more and more. Some fans are holding out hope that he's going to blossom into a real contributor, maybe even a solid rotational piece. The idea being that, hey, he hasn't had the opportunity. He was buried on the depth chart in Minnesota behind Rudy Gobert, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Naz Reid. But let's be real, Garza's about to enter his 5th NBA season and has barely cracked 6 minutes a game in the past couple of years. It's tough to expect someone to suddenly step into a meaningful role for a playoff team when he hasn't even proven himself as a reliable backup. If he gives you 12 minutes a night, stretches the floor a bit, and grabs some boards, great. But to assume he's a solution, that's a big ask. So maybe the Sabonis idea isn't the answer. Maybe Garza isn't either, but it does force you to look at the big picture. Boston is in a weird spot. They've got elite talent at the top. They're strapped for flexibility, And they've already made some polarizing moves. They traded Marcus Smart, a guy who embodied the culture for nearly a decade, for Kristaps Porzingis. They moved off Malcolm Brogdon. They let some key role players go. All of it signals a front office that's not afraid to shake things up. Speaking of Smart, let's address that drama because Celtics Twitter has been losing it lately. Marcus Smart to the Lakers. Yeah, that happened. After getting traded to Memphis and dealing with injuries, Smart eventually landed in Washington only to get bought out. And now, he's signed with Los Angeles for a bargain deal. That's right. The heart and soul of the Celtics is now wearing purple and gold. Some fans are calling it betrayal. They're comparing it to Luke Skywalker joining the dark side, or Jacoby Ellsbury suiting up for the Yankees. But come on, let's be real here. The Celtics traded Smart. They made the call to move him. Once that happens, a player owes the franchise nothing. This isn't about loyalty, it's about opportunity. Smart wants to play meaningful basketball. The Lakers, despite their flaws, are still in the hunt. They've got LeBron James. They've got Luka Doncic. They've got shooters. They're going for it. And honestly, I'm happy for Marcus. No one over the age of 28 should be forced to play for the Washington Wizards. That's not a real basketball environment. That's basketball purgatory. The man deserves better. If that better happens to be in LA, then so be it. Of course, it stings a little to see him in that jersey, but you can't blame him for chasing a real shot at winning. Back to Boston's situation, though. Another rumor that's popped up involves the Memphis Grizzlies. Word is, they've talked with the Celtics about a deal centered around Anthony Simons, with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and draft compensation heading to Boston. Now, I don't know how to say this politely, but no thanks. KCP had a rough season last year. His shooting dipped. His defense wasn't quite the same. And even though he's had solid years in Denver, those numbers were inflated by playing alongside Nikola Jokic. The Celtics would be taking on a not-so-friendly contract for a guy who may or may not bounce back. That doesn't scream win-now move. That screams we're desperate to shed salary. And that's really what it's all about, leverage. The Celtics have lost a lot of it. Everyone around the league knows they're trying to cut costs. So you're not getting anyone's best offer. Teams are sending lowball packages because they know Boston has to consider them. It's the ugly side of cap management. And the front office is trying to thread the needle between staying competitive and not blowing up the luxury tax bill. But you've got to ask, what's the long-term vision here? Is this a bridge year? A holdover season until Tatum gets back and they reassess? There's been talk about tanking. But honestly, that's not the Celtics way. This team still has enough talent to finish in the middle of the pack. Jaylen Brown is going to want to play his 65 games to be eligible for All-NBA honors. Derek White's not mailing it in. No one's out there saying, yeah, let's tank. That's just not how these guys are wired. Still, the temptation is real. Just ask the Warriors. They sat Steph for a year and ended up with a high pick. It didn't work out for them, sure, but it gave them flexibility. Same thing with the Spurs when they landed Tim Duncan. You never know what can happen if you punt one season. But there's also some buzz that maybe, just maybe, Tatum isn't as hurt as initially feared. Instagram detectives have spotted him walking around without a boot, flying on planes, even hopping in the pool. Could he be back earlier than expected? Could the Celtics hold the line long enough to make a run once he returns? It's enough to get you thinking, and that's the roller coaster we're on right now. 1 minute you're talking about developing Luka Garza. The next you're debating a trade for Sabonis, and then you're spiraling into what if Tatum comes back in February and we sneak into the playoffs territory. This is what being a Celtics fan feels like in 2025. It's chaotic, it's frustrating, but it's never, ever boring. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a surprising twist that sent shockwaves through NBA circles, whispers are growing louder about a potential blockbuster move, Kawhi Leonard to the Boston Celtics. While nothing is confirmed, multiple sources close to the situation suggest that discussions may have taken place behind closed doors. Talks that could completely alter the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics, fresh off a dominant season and still glowing from their recent success, seem anything but complacent. Team executives have reportedly been quietly exploring ways to further bolster their already formidable roster. Enter Kawhi Leonard, the two-time NBA Finals MVP and perennial two-way threat, currently with the Los Angeles Clippers. although Leonard has remained publicly committed to LA. Insiders hint that the franchise's repeated postseason disappointments and internal uncertainty might be pushing the superstar to evaluate his future, adding fuel to the fire. Leonard was recently spotted in Boston, sparking wild fan speculation. While it could be unrelated, it's worth noting that Celtics GM Brad Stevens has long admired Leonard's game, a quiet, deadly force capable of locking down opponents and hitting clutch shots when it matters most. Pairing Leonard with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown would instantly create a terrifying trio, arguably the best two-way wing combination in the league. Cap space and contract logistics remain significant hurdles, of course, but with rumors of a potential sign-and trade or even a multi-team deal involving future draft assets, league insiders aren't ruling anything out. The Celtics have the resources, the ambition, and perhaps most importantly, the championship momentum that could appeal to Leonard, who is still hungry for titles. At this stage, it's all speculation, the kind of speculative chatter that ignites social media and keeps front offices up at night. But if there's even a sliver of truth to the reports, the NBA landscape could be on the verge of yet another seismic shift. Stay tuned. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.